The CE 21st century, and we're still in foundations. And I believe, so we will be having a running through on this. Let me, is it already open? Let me share. Go. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So small. Yeah. All right. So these are the different misconceptions of a Christian ministry, that the ministry is not a social agency. It is. Okay? It is a social agency too. The church now is not an educational institution. It is. Learnings about family can be learned from the church. Right? It should be, in fact, who was that who said? I forgot the family name of this European author who said that the church has a historic role in teaching the members. No? The church is tasked to equip the members of these particular topics or knowledge. So the church has this task to equip the members about a particular topic. For example, what about in Canada, in your church, John, in your Bible studies or in any Sunday school, what has your church taught about among your members?
What has my church taught?
Mm-hmm.
Many different
Give me one. Give us one.
Sure, the importance of leadership.
Leadership, yes, godly leadership. What about in your church, JP in Mindanao? Thank you, John.
What now?
What did you learn in your church? Yun na lang question ko, what did you learn from your church? I'm sure you can, prior to coming to PBTS, you were once a member of your church in Mindanao. So what did you learn from your church?
People-oriented yung church namin.
Kala ko naman, I learned how to fight one another. I learned how to unite. Wow naman. What did you learn from your church?
My church, ma'am, is actually they are into people-oriented.
People, to love people. Alright, to love people.
Yeah.
That's why you are also loving these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Zhao? What did you learn from your church in Vietnam before coming to PBTS?
I think the most is teamwork.
Teamwork.
Yes.
So that's all that you learned.
Yes.
And you've been to church for how many years?
Almost 3 years.
3 years. But
Yes.
how to work closely with each other? 3 years only.
Yes, we have a teamwork in the church. Like not really the leader, but we also had a meeting every weekly, and we.
So you learn about the meeting that the church should always meet.
No, the church is the team, the leader.
Okay, the leader only.
And
then,
we work together and we report everything is very good and what we need to better. Like this.
well, that is good. That is church leadership. What about you, Christy? At being at church, being at Dream, what did you learn from your church? This is an individual question, by the way.
Recently, ma'am, we discussed or we had more more time on building up our unity. as a
Unity.
church.
That's the recent topic.
Yes, and recent activity, ma'am.
Thank you, Christy. What about you, Pastor Vince? What do you teach your church members? You're a pastor. What do you teach them?
Respect authorities.
Respect. By the way, Vince is a criminology graduate, yeah? That's why you always respect the authority. Obey the authority. Always like that, in that line. What about you, Pastor Art? What did you learn from your church? From your dad's church?
To be prayerful and
Prayerful.
have faith in God.
Yes. Ikaw naman, church, from your daddy. What did you learn from your daddy?
Learn to my father on how to prepare the younger generation to be the next
Musician.
next minister or something.
Okay, so you are now preparing, having a vision, to be visionaries, no? In order for you to pass on the legacy, the faith, no, to the next generation. In our church, our main Sunday school teacher is Dr. Waldo, my husband, and he taught us about the last things, Because there's this person joining our church and spreading a false information on this particular topic. So our leaders requested for Dr. Torwala to talk about the last things. No, is Christ coming? Will there be a tribulation on the second coming? It's all about the second coming. So you see, these things you can learn from your church. What about Jesus Christ? What are these different OGs? Soteriology. What is soteriology? Soteros, the last things, no? What about ecclesiology? Unity. Oh, yan. You can learn that from your church. What else? How about theology? Sin. The doctrine of the different doctrines. We are learning that from our churches, from our church. That's why this is a misconception, this is a myth. The church now is not an educational institution. That's why this is a misconception. The truth is, the church is also an educational institution. In fact, your church should also be teaching about proper attire for ladies. Yes, that can also be addressed in your church. Can you imagine Pastor Art Payawan Jr. if your church members are wearing spaghetti during Sunday and, you know. So you see, proper decency. What else? You are combating heresies. No?
They might always say something like this.
Don't look at the
Well, on the surface, you
faithfulness to family, faithfulness to your husband and wife. You learn that from your church. Then sabi nila ministry daw is not a program. It is also. It is naman, di ba? We have feeding program, social ministries program. What else? What kind of programs do you have? Community programs. It is. The church is. It is also an organization. But what kind of an organization? It is a different kind of organization as well. So that's why these are all misconceptions. Now let's move on to the real lesson for today. Saan na ba tayo? Alright, I think this is the last. And so we said that those who have come before us have accomplished much that we can learn from. Yes, beginning from the very beginning, from the Hebrew origins of Christian education, we can learn. One, Christy, can you read please? What can we learn from this period? In this period?
God desires to use people to accomplish His purpose on earth.
Next, please.
God's character is that of nurturing parent or teacher.
And
Ministry is about religion.
all right, talking about God's character is that of nurturing parent-teacher. Remember when Pastor Juan talked about in the family, focus on the family, when he said that the father from the Shema, Deuteronomy 6, the Shema, no? This is the context of this. God is our first teacher. In fact, Robert Pasminio, a leading 20th century Baptist educator, wrote a book about God as our teacher. So who was your first teacher?
Father.
Who is your first teacher? God Himself, as you can find in Deuteronomy. When you are arguing for teaching and this can be your biblical foundation, by the way, when you are writing your paper, research papers here at the seminary. Alright? And then, God also used several festivals to teach people about Himself. What are these festivals that you can learn that the Hebrew people have been celebrating? Passover. What's the significance of this Passover, by the way?
They eat the lamb.
Huh?
They eat lamb and then bread without yeast.
The very.
The
How do you-
vegetable.
If you're a child, how would you describe the bread? Without yeast, it's hard. It's a hard to bite kind of bread. Matigas na bread, tinapay, no?
thin crust.
What else? Thin crust ba? Walang yeast, no? Yeah. Just like the ostya, no? The bread, no? When it has no yeast, it's just thin. Without yeast. But I think for them it's kind of hard. Because it's okay kung tago yung tinapay mo, hindi naman sila hihingi ng tinapay mo. Kaya naman ang art. Tinapay na kasi nakita ko eh. I can see it from here. Like a preschooler biting from that burger and then putting it there in the bag. All right.
Yeah, but anyway, next time we know we will get more.
Okay. So to remind them of their bitter and hard life in Egypt, that's the purpose of the Passover, and all of them, all of the things there in the ceremony, it's a ritual, reminding them, a symbol of the hard life and bitter life in Egypt. That's why they do not want to go back there again. So that's the reason of the festival. No? And they ate bitter gourd. Ang palaya siguro to, no? Ang pait siguro. So pait, no? So bitter, no? That you would say, I do not want to be eating this food anymore. The bitter and hard life in Egypt. And that is God's way of teaching the Hebrews before, the Israelites. What else? What else are the other... By the way, you are learning all of this festival in your OT1 survey, no?
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, what's the purpose of the Hanukkah?
Maraming pagkain.
Festival of Lights.
Ano naalala nila? Pagkain. There must be a reason for that, the Hanukkah.
Festival of Lights. What?
Lights. Festival of Lights. What's the purpose of lights?
The dedication of the dedication of the temple. Because it was this by Jews.
And then do you remember the Hebrews when they are also encountered? Remember during the time of Abraham, when they are when these old people, the patriarchs, when they encounter God, they set up a what? A landmark, stones, piles of stones. To us now, these are just stones, but to them, this is a landmark, remembering who God is, and sometimes they even name it what? There's even a name for that, and that is significant for these people. All right, to us who are Gentiles and are just in understanding this today in our time, we may not find this significant. It's just more on here, but to them it's both here and here. All right, that's why I'm telling you. Someday you travel to Israel. Mahal, magkano 150,000. So, according to the author, during this period, what the significance of seeing here is that ministry is about relationship. God established relationship. God could have refused to teach the people. Yeah, He could have just controlled the people there and bowed before me, sending lightning and thunder. But here you can learn, according to the author, that God established ministry. You know, established relationship in the ministry. So even today we are still also recognizing this. Yeah. And when you say Hebrew origins, we can talk about the patriarchs. Who are the patriarchs, by the way? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. No more? No more. Because if you answer more, you are wrong. No? Then the law of Moses. No? Then the family. You see, Pastor Juan, how important your topic is? It's still here. It's part of the Hebrew concept of learning about life and about God, no? The family. And in fact, you said in your report, in your devotion a while ago, that God established family first. Family first. In the Old Testament, the family was the first to be established. And in what sense it was established? What's the evidence? In Genesis. Yes, chapter 2, very good. I'm looking at you because you need to help me. Then, also the priests, the judges, and the prophets, God used all of these people, group of people, to teach the people about God. The priests, the judges, and the prophets too, right? Then the monarchy. Before kings are given the task to teach the people, David and Solomon, that's why they wrote this one, the Psalms, the Proverbs. No, they are supposed to teach the people when they are gathering there in the court, in the palace court. No, they are supposed to be listening something from the king. Oh, what is that? The implication of that? Kaya nga you do not vote for leaders who do not really advocate loving the Lord. No. Then the exile, during the exile, because there's a point in the history of the Israelites wherein they had been into exile. But even then, God did not stop teaching them during the exile. Right? Then the synagogue. Oh, there you go. Then we had the religious leaders. Okay? Then there's the counterpart. Now we are in the 21st century. The pastors now. The missionaries too. The Bible teachers. These are all people who are helping in partnership with God in equipping the people, right? Let's move on. We are just here in the Hebrew origins. Let's go to the Greek and Roman education. The Greek education, you will be surprised. Greek education and philosophical thought. This is just a review. You know, if you go to these different books, you will be finding this so comprehensive. And according to the author where I got this, Christian education must be more than rote memory. Do you know why? Because in the Greek education, they also patronize, they also initiate rote memorizing. That's just memorizing facts. But the author said that it should be beyond rote memory. Alright? But for the children, I think they need to be taught facts. But as you grow older, they need to be taught about critical thinking. Then, the curriculum of C must be fully integrated in the life. It should be practical as well. And remember, during the Greek education, what do you think was the goal during this time? You need to know the context. During this time, they are into conquest, they are into... Remember that phrase, the grandeur that was Greek and the glory that was Rome. The grandeur that was Greece, the glory that was Rome. Meaning to say, grandeur, architecture. You are an architect or an engineer?
Engineer.
What have you learned in your undergrad about the Roman and the Greco structures of buildings?
Yes.
We got it from the Greeks, and from the Greco-Roman. No, that architecture, the arts. No, and the Greeks, by the way, are into their aesthetic sense have been refined through this period. They are also into philosophical thoughts. When you say philosophical thoughts, what do you mean by that? There are so many movements in there when you say philosophy. Realism, idealism, progressivism. Do they ring a bell to you? Perennialism, naturalism. These are all philosophical thoughts. Existentialism. No? What else? Postmodernism too is a philosophical thought coming from existentialism. So the Greeks have really great ideas when it comes to this philosophy. And in fact, in your MT1, under Dr. Waldo, you will be taught the reason why, even in the New Testament, there would be some philosophical thoughts there. And I believe the Apostle Paul was also combating this philosophical thinking ideas there. That is worldly. Right? Then the scope and sequence of Bible-related curriculum must consider basic tenets of human development. According to the author, you also need to consider the human development when it comes to teaching and in your creation of your curriculum. And I think we are now doing that in our 21st century. But before, no. Right? Let's move on. When you say, look at this, when you say, what's the Greek content? The Greek culture is really very rich. I have said a while ago, the Greek vases, the different songs and dances, they're into this Greek religion. What can you say about this Greek religion, the mysticism and all? Then the Greek education is more on, you may also want to go back to this conquest, the Trojan, the different wars. Remember the Sparta, and what's the other one? Hindi ka nanonood ng Troy, no? That's a Greek literature, no? The Spartans and the Trojans, no? So they are more into developing of their physique, no? Not just of the mind, but also of their physique. And Greek philosophical thought and what do you think are the Greek influences on modern education? A while ago we have mentioned about that. And now let's move on to the Roman education and philosophical thought. After the Greeks came the Romans. So they just changed the Greek gods and goddesses into Roman gods and goddesses. Remember, si Diana is not a Grecian god. Roman god po yan. Goddess, Diana. No? Goddess of beauty. Goddess of wisdom. No? So, according to the author, what can we learn from the Roman education is be a student of the culture. Because you know what they did? When the Romans conquered Greece, no? That's why before the lingua franca was also Greek. And the Bible was written in Koine Greek. But that's why you are learning your Greek here at PBTS. So when the Romans conquered Greece, they did not discard the culture of the Greeks. They integrated the culture of the Grecian culture into the culture of the Roman people. So they para bang integrated the two. So you see, kaya ang galing ng kanilang sistema at the time, no? Then the moral and character development of the child starts in the home, right? If you study this more, you will find in your NT1, especially by Gundry and Blomberg, also discuss this, no? How who's gonna be the teachers, the pedagogos during this time, they call it pedagogos, no? The teachers of the children. Sometimes during the Roman period, some of the Greeks were intellectuals. So because of the conquest, they became slaves, these nobilities, and they became teachers of the Roman children. Alright? So we must integrate curriculum with real life training. No? 21st century ministry leaders need balanced programs because of Luke 2:52. What is Luke 2:52? And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature. Holistic approach. So this is where you got the holistic approach in having your curriculum, in developing the whole of the person, the totality of the person, not just one. Alright? Because this is the beginning of the holistic approach to education. Right? Then let's move on. It's 3:24. If you look at this, anyway, I will be sharing this with you. In the early republic, no strong national literature, agricultural, domestic, moral, and civil skills only for boys and girls. So the parents were doing the domestic education. And in the late republic, the 300 to 0 BC, before Christ, there is now the emergence, the coming of more formal, tiered schools by ability, meaning, for example, if you're good in sword, then you will be given in that, you will be assigned to that kind of training. Now, if you are very good in this, in music, then you will be also given in that section, right? The Greek influence strengthens with private tutors, literature, and higher education. Yet Roman reject Greek music. By the way, the Grecian music is also beautiful, no? But the Romans, they're not into that because they have a different way of thinking. They would like to develop a strong republic. So they said, we do not have time for arts and other things that talk about aesthetics, but we are more into development of the physics because we will go to war. Alright? And then the empire, abundance of private schools, but only for the rich. No? Only the rich can afford this. What about CE, or Christian education in the early church? What is this period about? When you say early church, so I think when Christ grows up already, no? And then here's the disciples being left behind. So question here is, what would Jesus do? What can we learn from this? The CE in the early church, we can always ask ourselves, being the master teacher as our teacher, if Christ was here, what would Christ do? So they are more into Christocentric teaching, right? Live in partnership with the Holy Spirit. We can learn so much from them that we need to live in partnership with the Holy Spirit. We also need to keep the contribution of philosophy in perspective. Later on, you will be finding this in the Pauline letters, no? In your NT1. You should never neglect understanding CE as well. During this time, Jesus Christ became the master teacher, the one teaching. You know, the center of the teaching is centered on the it's a Christocentric kind of teaching. Then after Christ, there's the apostolic age, the apostles' teaching after Christ. Then the catechumenal instruction. Remember catechumenal if you're a Catholic? I have done this before. No, when I was still a Catholic. Then the catechetical and cathedral schools. Have you been to many provinces in the Philippines? Because in Bicol, in every town, we have these cathedral schools. We have these schools together with the Catholic Church. Like for example, in Albay, in my place in Uwas, we have the St. Michael Academy. You call it Cathedral School. Right? And I don't know, I think here in Baguio we have St. Louis University, no? But not UC and UB, only St. Louis. And we also have St. Mary's. Then we have the early Christian educators, the church fathers. When we say church fathers, we are referring to whom? Sino itong mga church fathers and apologists and polemics? What do you mean? What's the difference between an apologist and a polemist? Ano pagkakaiba ng dalawa? What's the difference between these two? They are the same in some ways, but they are also different from each other. Ano yung apologist?
Apologists may defend the Christian.
You defend. What about polemics? You should have learned this in your MT1. Huh? Because during this time, there's a context in this. There are so many heresies attracting or being taught in the church. The church is still very early, very young. And so there are so many heresies coming in because of the false teachers during that time. And so these were established to combat heresies, heretical teachings in the church. And they were also there to defend the poor Christians who are being slaughtered every day for their faith. So which one? The apologists are the defenders of the faith. Can you imagine if these people did not defend the Christian faith? All of us, we will not survive. We will all be dead. So there are also scholars among the Christians. We also have Christian scholars, by the way, because there is this also tendency to mock the Christians, saying Christianity is only for the weak people, for the poor people, and for the dumb people. Do you agree? Oh, there is. And so this is the reason why these people came up, arose, and defend the Christian faith. That actually the Christianity is for the what? Also for the rich, or also for the intellectuals, and for the learned people. How do you explain Trinity? There are so many difficult concepts in Christianity that are difficult to understand. But scholars can explain this better. Right? Now, when you say early Christian education, church fathers and apologists, these are the times of Justin Martyr. Do they ring a bell now? Clement of Alexandria, systematic theology. You will be learning this. Church history too. Tertullian. Parang chips. Tortilla. Tertullian. Origen. These are the fathers. The early church fathers who defended the faith. Making people understand that, hey, we are not a threat to you. We are not cannibals. No? And Cyril of Jerusalem. Remember, they have no family name, so they are known for their place. Cyril of Jerusalem. Basil the Great. Remember Basil and the sister Macrina in church history? Anong sabi ni because these people are sometimes arrogant, and so the sister said, sabi ni Macrina, happiness cannot be found in the glories of this world, but in the service of God. Beautiful saying coming from the sister, and he was rebuked. Si Jerome, you will find in history that Jerome does not take a bath. Jerome, but he did something to help us in promoting Christianity as well, defending the faith. John Chrysostom, your name was taken after this, I think. Then Augustine. Remember Augustine? No? And also later on you will be finding out, by the way, these people, that's why you call Justin Martyr. You can just imagine the sufferings that they went through, defending the faith. No? You will be burned alive, skin alive. No? Never mind. You will not be able to sleep. I mentioned all of those things. No? I read a book of all the things done to the early Christians before. I wasn't able to sleep. So miserable. But I believe the Lord. It's downstairs, the library. It's downstairs. You won't be able to sleep, no? And we also have the philosophical heresies attacking the church during this time, penetrating the church. Gnosticism, Docetism. Are you familiar with this? Docetics? No? And these church fathers tried defending the faith and tried teaching the people, the members, against these false teachers. Then the Manichaeism from Manichaeans, no? And other heresies, cults, attacking the church during this early conception of the church. So there's a necessity for the early church fathers, for these defenders of faith, the apologists. Then what about CE in the Middle Age? We can learn to stay focused. You know why? When you say Middle Ages, what comes into your mind when you come to this period in time in history about Middle Ages? When you say Middle Ages, gitna na ito. In church history, you will find that this is now the beginning of corruption in the church, the Dark Ages. No? So that's what the author is saying is stay focused. How you raise money is just as important as you spend it. Remember the selling of the indulgences? The corruption in the Catholic Church during this time? The mind is a terrible thing to waste. The head and the heart belong together because during this time, what was this period about? Kindly naman, kindly help me in thinking about this Middle Ages. Remember the decline of the Roman Empire. So much corruption, so much power struggle between the emperor and the popes. No? The rise of the feudalism. Remember feuds? The tenants, the land grabbing. The church divided between the West and the East. The West, the Roman Catholics. The rest, no? Then the condition of the clergy. When you say the clergy, we're talking about the papacy. Oh, you have to learn, you have to be there in the church history class to learn about this. Meron na Santo Papas, meron Santo Mama. No? Asceticism and the monastic schools. This is also the coming in of the asceticism. Because of the too much corruption in the church, some monks decided to become ascetics, removing all the opulence, opulence in the church. Kaya nga sina Saint Francis of Assisi, vow to poverty, vow to what else are the different vows? No? Then the Crusades. This is also the time of the Crusades. This is also one of the darkest periods in our history. The Crusades. And even the children, they also had this children's crusade. The children also, so many children died during this time because they have to go to where? The crusade. Right? Then there's scholasticism and the development of universities. That's why this is not the coming in of Thomas Aquinas. Right? Then what about in the Renaissance? Look at this. According to the author, what can we learn from this period of the Renaissance period? God always sends a forerunner to start the change process. Martin Luther in the 99 Theses. Diba? A Catholic priest. Came to know just by reading the Bible, came to know. Remember that the Bible can only be accessed by the clergy, not by the regular members. But look at this. Now God worked on the life of Martin Luther. Martin Luther's eyes was open. No? And the 99 Theses or the 95 Theses came about and put it there in the, where's the door? Door of Wittenberg. No? That's the start. Actually, Luther did not want to separate from the Catholic Church. But you cannot just do that. You have to face the consequence of your action. Then we see in the Renaissance a patient and tolerant God because of the Dark Ages, the corruption. Many lives have been taken because of the corruption. What is that? Inquisition too. Remember the story about the witch? You can be called a witch. If you are known to be a witch, you can be killed. No? So time they are changing according to the author. So this is the history of this time in the Renaissance. What about what's the context of this? Look at that. Then this is also the beginning of the humanism and Renaissance. Humanism. Humans. The human condition. Then the Renaissance architecture too. Philosophy too. This is the rise of then later on came the intellectualism. René Descartes. They came out during this time. Then what about in the Reformation? When you say, who are the reformers? Do you know? These are the brave souls, who helped us. Reformers, you can talk about Who?
Martin.
Martin Luther. Who else? What about in Switzerland? Who's that famous guy from Switzerland? Hindi ba si Zwingli? Zwingli. Who else? Calvin. These are friends from different countries. And there is having this reformation all over the continent, no? Then the separation of church and state is a principle upon which the United States was established too. This is not the beginning of the separation of church and state. So that's why when you're talking about this, you cannot miss talking about the Reformation. Alright? Because prior to this, the church and state is just one. But because of the Reformation period, because of these reformers, the church and state became separated. Right? Then the publicly funded education is the ideal approach to educating our children. This is not the beginning of public education. Kaya nga when you are writing your paper, go back to history, and this is the history. Right? The church must remain relevant. In what way did the church become relevant during this time? Look at Martin Luther. Ano yung mga sola niya? The different solas, what are these? We are having sola, scriptura, scripture alone, sola fide, by faith alone.
Sola gratia.
What else?
Soli Deo Gloria.
Sola fide? Yes, those solas. No? Based on what? What verse was the founding verse of the Reformation of Martin Luther? Romans 1:8. 1:8. Kasi kayo madala kasi kayo memorize kayo. Alright. But at least, no? Then let's move on. During this time, during the Reformation, what was the struggle? What was the triggered? What are the elements that triggered the Reformation? Look at this. Church leadership decline. So when you talk about church leadership in your thesis, you cannot miss talking about the Reformation period as well. This was also the problem before. Then the power struggle between monarchs, meaning yung mga kings, and then the papacy. Pero struggle talaga. If you are not if the pope is not in favor of the king, lagot ka. You will not have the kingdom under your rule. Inventions too became a factor during the Reformation. Prior to the Reformation, before the Reformation, there was no printing press. But the printing press was the first to be invented that helped spread the change process. No? Printing press. Buruin mo yan. Kailan, anong year ito? Remember? Then the church reform, Luther and his 99 Theses. Then the lay reform movements followed by Waldensians, Hussites, John Huss, remember? Then Lollards, then also Albigensians, Anabaptists, Puritans, and Mennonites. So look at this now. There is so much change going on. No? Then, what about the European origins of modern CA? This time, what about the Christian education in Europe? According to the author here, the Christian should not feel threatened by a discussion of philosophy. Because during that time, philosophy was not acknowledged much, and so it became a threat. Wait an hour. Right? But according to the author, we should not be threatened by a philosophy. Now, this is the reason why you are at the seminary. You need to, that's why if I will be asking you, will you be able to refute the Seventh-day Adventists? Dapat pag-isipan na yan. Will you be able to defend the faith, the Christian faith, against the Buddhists? That's a question. That's why you are here. That's why we are having these different subjects at PBTS. We have your missions, church history. That's why you have your hermeneutics, homiletics too, you know. That's why you are also having your church history, systematic theology, and even ethics. That's why, so therefore, once you graduated from PBTS, you need to be able to contribute in the discussion about abortion, what's your stand about abortion, LGBTQ. But right now we are silent. We are silent. What about, what else? What else are the other issues? What about poverty? What about poverty? Social issues too. No? You're so quick in saying yeah.
But internet
It is also. No? Then this is also the age of professionalism of childhood education ito during the time of the European origins, no? Because that means the implication of this is this: prior to this, childhood ministry is not even part of the plan. They do not include the children in the educational ministry of the church. Only the adults. Youth and children, nah. Just let them doodle there. Just let them play in the mud. That's the thinking, Christy. But the European thinking, the coming also of the Renaissance, that was the result. No? Later on, let's move on kasi tapusin natin talaga to, no? Walang uwian to. Then later on, the early origins of the Sunday school movement, and John will be talking about this. Lay leadership ignites a spiritual renewal and then international fire. Robert Wright, not even a leader, but was able to establish this children's ministry as well. Then curriculum development was essential to preserve the doctrinal purity of the Sunday school movement. No? 250 years of Sunday schools have taught us that the strongest programs were those that remained faithful to the original message of evangelism, instructional in God's words, and responsiveness to social needs. Do not forget this. These are timeless concepts. Times may have changed, no? Some things may change, but this, they will stay classic, timeless. Right? So do not forget this when you become the head of your church. Then, the CE in colonial America. During this time, the primary characteristic of education during the colonial period was its adherence to religious ideals and values. The family was its strong points, no? But not anymore in the 20th century. And then our nation's founders had a high regard for one's personal religious convictions. You look at the dollar. Do you have a dollar there? Look at what does it say in the dollar? In God we trust. Gaya din ng Pilipino. What do we put there in our peso? In our pambayad ng utang.
Mapalad ang bayan at Diyos ang Panginoon.
Iyan na lang yung bago. That's the new one. But before, yung perang ito ay pambayad sa utang. Okay? Alright? In God we trust. There in the dollar bill. Because of this, no? And what about? So again, in the colonial America, these are the things that are happening in this period. Sunday school movement became prominent. Then the private schools, because before it was just the public schools. Then the awakenings. Are you aware of the awakenings? Revivals and awakenings. Charles Wesley, the Wesley brothers. Ito yung awakenings. Kaya if you will be writing your work on awakenings, you cannot miss this period. Right? Let's move on. In the 19th century, we have si John Dewey na to, andito siya, pumasok na siya. Pragmatism joins the church, making the teachings of the church relevant, practical, and timely in the needs of the church members. Making the teachings of the pastors and other Sunday school teachers relevant, meeting the needs of the church members as well. Then tensions built between the home and the Sunday school over religious instruction. There was a question here. Who should now be instructing the child about faith? Should it be the home or the Sunday school? The Sunday school. Ito yung tanong before. And the home said, "Oh, we are now working. We are working parents now because of the Industrial Revolution. We are now relegating the job to the Sunday school teachers. And up to now, we are doing it. This is the reason why, Then, the value of democracy and its implications for classroom application also has beneficial implications for us today. Ganda, no? That's why you need to understand this, because when you understand this, you can check later on your practices in your Sunday school or in your church. You get to evaluate. And then ito si Horace Bushnell, the nurture of the child. There must be a vital role for that. There must be a reason for that, and it must be integrated. The nurturing of the child in the church. Then si Dewey also is a very prominent figure in the life of the church. The practicality, the application of the teachings into the lives of the people. Then in the 20th century, nasa 21st tayo. So then in the 20th century, the authority of the scriptures is foundational for life. This is something that we can learn from this century, no? Then a well-rounded education provides the best foundation for influencing the world in CE. Well-rounded, what does it mean when you say well-rounded? Not just spiritual, but also in other aspects, no? Then the coming in of the para-church organization. When you say para-churches, what does it mean?
Hand in hand with the church.
Yes, and what is that? IBCF. Even CSM is a para-church. It's not a church, it's a church alongside. Para. Kaya nga, para along. What else? What else are these activities? Campus Crusades for Christ. Alongside with the church, para-church. This is the coming in of the para-churches. Alright?
OMF, mga
OMF po.
missionary.
Yes. What else? These para-churches, if you know that if they say, oh, we are a para-church, that's it. This is the time when the para-churches became prominent. This is the beginning, right? Let's see. See, these are the people who helped in the 20th century. These are the Christian educators. So you cannot just say, please stop it in your mind saying, oh, that's when you think about CE, we're just thinking about coloring pages. No, we also have great minds who help shape the CE of the church. J.M. Press, i-google nyo dito yung Thomas Groom, not of Southern Baptist. Ano to Episcopalian yata ito si Thomas Groom. Pero help shape the educational ministry of the church. Si Lawrence Richards, Hook Book Look Took. This is the brain of that Hook Book Look Took that you are using in your devotion. Si Robert Pazmiño helped define CE. What is CE? You just Google it. Then si Kenneth Gangle too. These are Baptist educators who are very strong in their faith, helping shape the educational ministries of the church, especially of the Southern Baptist. Okay? Hindi ko pa nga nabanggit si Louis Liba. Missing na siya. No? But also part of the 20th century, even including Henrietta Mears. This is the time you ask me, what is that? Oh, educational application. This is a group work. Tell me, do you like group work or would you like to work alone? I listen to voices. Would you rather work alone or would you work? But I would like you, this is just my thing. I would like you to work as a group. You know why? The ministry is not the work of one. It is the work of all. Learn to love each other now. Right? So, this is the different philosophical thought. Instead of discussing this, you will be the one to research on this. Okay? So, find yourself, group yourselves into how many? 8? How many are you, by the way, in this class now? There are 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 3. One group only. Each one will have one.
Yes,
Each one will have one. I do not want somebody to be left behind. That's how I love each one. That's why each one will have one. So, in this case, you need to supply in the column the role of the teacher. That's all that you need to get. What is the role of the teacher? What is the role of the student during the idealism, during this philosophical thought idealism? Ang dali po nito, you can just Google it. This is the time I will be allowing me to use technology. I don't mind where you get it. Provide to me the resource, the reference. So let me give me your name, please. Which one is your work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, who wants idealism? Vince, ikaw na. Basta Vince, sa'yo lahat yan. What is the role of the teacher? I do not like you to write in paragraph, just very short, just to give us a glimpse of this. Student, what is the role of the student? What is the curriculum about? If you are in an idealism classroom, what is the curriculum about? What are the methods being used? What's the outcome? Okay, this is the meaning of this. And in fact, when you say methods, what is the setting of the idealism classroom? What does it look like? Show it to us. Google it. You can find it there. What about, by the way, when you say curriculum or method and even the outcome, in the outcome, present also to us the influence. What about in the realism? Who wants realism? Who? What's the in a realistic or in a realist classroom setting? What is the role of the teacher? What is the role of the student? What about what is its curriculum? What does it look like? Show it to us. What are the methods used in a realist classroom? A realist classroom. Ganun lang po, that's how you answer. Quick, no? Walang patumpik-tumpik. You have to be straightforward. Who would like to have this? JP. Essentialism.
Art.
Art. What about pragmatism? Pragmatism, please. Churchon, ikaw na. Practical na rin. Perenya, Google it, please. All you need to do is just go to the internet. Google it.
It's up
No?
to you, ma'am.
Okay, Zhao. Abiao. Biao. Progressivism. Christie. Ang ganda ng existentialism.
I'll take it.
I know you because you look like one of the proponents of existentialism. John. And postmodernism. Ahu. Something. Yes. One.
Yes.
Now, Esabois will go with you. Esabois. Pan will go with you. And, Christy, parang mas gusto mo ikaw na lang, no? Who want, by the way, Brother Randy, saan mo gusto? Which one is your group? Are they still there? Let me check. Wala na yata sila. Aboy. Are you still there? Q, which one is your group, please? It's okay, baby. Randy, which one will you would like to join in? Okay, kay Art ka na lang sumabay kasi SB din. Sige, Art, tabi kayo ni Randy. Pastor Randy, yeah? And then, Christy, kindly help Esabois. Esa. I don't know, not Esa, but Q. Sabay mo. Bahala ka mabigay sa kanya ng work. You lead. You present this. Alright? Would you like to present this in class or would you like to create a video on this and then just send?
I think video.
Video na lang. Talk about this, but I would like you to be talking. Talk. Would you like that, John? Is that okay with you? Yeah, video. Make it short.
Individual.
Would you like to present?
Because it's just 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute lang. Very fast lang po.
Video.
And by the way, you can also get pictures of what does an idealist classroom look like. There is, wag niyo kung hindi ni dyan. I have seen one. Google it. What about in a realist classroom? What does an existentialist classroom look like? Meron po. Do you know that Starbucks kind of studying? And even this kind of classroom, where would you place this? There is a place for this kind of discussion. Right? So I would like you to show to us, get a picture of that existentialist classroom. What about this that you are eating? You know, you are having coffee inside the classroom. Can you find that in an idealist or realist classroom? I don't think so. Alright? That's why I would like you to put it there. What is the role of the teacher? What is the role of the student in this realist classroom or in a classroom, realism classroom? What about the curriculum? What does it look like? Then what about the methods of teaching, setting of classroom? What about the outcome? What do they expect the student to be after the period of studying? That is how you would like to research about for your topic assigned to you, right? And then present is. Art set, according to the president of this class, no, I'm just kidding. You will be presenting this here. So kindly prepare your slides. If you would like to present it, but in a video form, I don't mind too. I'm giving you freedom, be creative. I would like it to be, as long as you present all of this. Yeah? Kayo, dalawa kayo ha. Magtulong kayo ni Q. Q, you will be joining Christy in the progressivism. O, kasi alam naman sa'yo.
Bro, paano yung pag dalawa kami, tapos online yung isa?
Sakit sa ulo mo. No, I think I'll just give Ronnie something else. I'll just remove. Masakit art. I will just give, I think si Christy also would like to be alone. Hello, Nadine. Naturally. O, diba? Sige lang, Christy. I'll just give them something else. Another philosophical thought. One, I don't like Esabo to be there because I think you would just be asking her to do the work. No. So, Randy, you, kindly, I will be uploading this in our group chat, alright? So, do not worry about that. So, I will just be giving your own philosophical thought to work on, Brother Randy, Esabua, and you. Don't worry about that. I will be communicating with you this after this class. All right? I will be personally sending you a text message or a PM about this project. So that means today is what? Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday. That means you will be doing this work on Friday. Presenting this. Oh,
Class.
you have no?
I thought we don't have class face-to-face.
No face-to-face, but you will be working on this, brother.
Okay.
Do not go to Bawang, I'm telling you.
Because
I will find out. I'm a good police,
We
alright?
can go after making.
Don't worry, if the weather is good and you all become very good, we'll go to the beach. In your imagination. Okay. So just wait for my PM, Esabua, Brother Randy, and Q. Okay, so on Friday, we will not be meeting face to face. You will be working on this work. Your task, work on your task. No excuses, please. Work on this. You have 1.5 hours to prepare for this. Is it clear? What will you be doing? Research and prepare a slide. If you do not want to talk like this, you may present your work using a video, pre-recorded video. Okay? And you can put on your best clothes, no? Yeah. Alright, with all your homemade.
Academic week.
Next week.
11. Academic breather na ba to?
Yes.
O di after that, when I say next week, it's gonna be after academic breather. Right?
Yeah.
That, okay, class, when I say next meeting,
Yeah.
that means see you when I see you.
So we
Alright.
can meet on your.
So this Friday, do not come to class, but you may also stay here if you want the internet. You may stay here and use the internet and work on your work. If you need me, I'll just be there in my office helping you. You may also pay me if you need one. Alright? Clear, everybody? Amen. So, praise the Lord. Give the baby some peanuts, please. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation today. Thank you. By the way, next meeting who's going to be after the academic breather is the presentation of devotion by, look at your syllabus, ha?
Part Payawan.
Yes, amen. Prepare. I expect a lot. Right? By the way, do not also be afraid to use TED Talk or video or YouTube in your devotion. Yeah? Do not be afraid. You may also use that. Yes.
You didn't send me the. I thought.
Which one?
You said you will send me the devotion something about.
What is your person? Who is the person?
You did not
Like my
want to
number
I forgot.
You said you have something you sent for me.
What? Who is the person given to you?
Lowen?
Churchan, wait lang, ha? Lawrence Richards. Oh, I will give it to you. Don't worry.
Okay.
I think I gave it to your. Are you not watching your you need please look into your account.
Okay. I will send you for you, and then you send for me.
Yeah, I mean, okay, just like what I did to them.
Okay.
Sir John, basahin mo nga ito. I will do it today.
Okay. Okay.
I will be out for the day. Sabi ko ma'am, saka may akin din po kasi ako mabisita sa Pacific. Kaya medyo late evening ako sa mga kabalik ng bahay.
Mag-ano na lang tayo.
Hindi na lang naman.
Ay, tayo na kung gusto mo. Kung ready na sila.
Ay, pwede lang pala.
Ito na. Ay, yun pala na lang. Class na lang pala sa natin.
Ayun. Pero okay lang po yun.
Palagyan.
Try ko po mamaya mag-gagawin.
At least we don't have to go there. Okay po.